We were at Collegeville at the guest house. At St. John's, yeah. So as I'm sitting there, there's literally nowhere for me to run, and I'm feeling completely othered. And it's like, how do I pastor people who are sending me messages that say, you don't belong here? Boy, we got off on a weird tangent. Who started that mess? You. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just so kidding. You know what, Michael? You got to move this camera around, because if you could have seen her face, that was priceless. I'm just teasing. Can we still be friends? I'm totally just teasing. I won't do that anymore. I'm just teasing. Okay, what are we talking about here? All this faith and racism and how it's so intertwined and what it does to our bodies and our psyche, and our souls. I've been thinking about Trayvon Martin and Emmett Till and how these wounds and these scars, and they just get passed on and passed on and passed on. And I've been thinking about Manifest Destiny. And next week, I want to bring one of the leaders that was at the Johnson Symposium. He had, if you Google Manifest Destiny, the picture that comes up of the angel, it's kind of like a civic, you know what I'm talking about? And she's got the telephone wires around her arm, and she's got the book under her arm, and she's like glow in the dark white. What is that? I mean, nobody is that color. She's like, you know what I'm telling you? She's like, and I've never really looked at it. Very closely, because it has nothing to do with me. It's this glowing white angel and all these white people, and they're moving across the United States. I never noticed that there are indigenous people that are being driven out. I never noticed that. Never looked at it. And so one of the brothers they were part of the panel discussion, he was so sick of that image, my words, I'm sure he did not say that, but that's my phraseology. I'm paraphrasing for him. He was so sick of it that he invited an artist that he knew to have the doctrine of recovery and to image that differently. And I'll scan that, and Rebecca and Michael will help me project that so you can see that image. And it's nice. Or I'll at least bring copies. We'll do it old school and pass it around so you can see the way that they re-imaged that. It's like, I don't know, just attending that symposium, I could always, up until that moment, at least try to point to the Declaration of Independence and just say, there's been some amendments. I'm in there somewhere. And it just isn't the case. And so what do I do with a country that forced me to come here and doesn't want me here anyway, and then has the audacity to use me and people that look like me and our children as target practice, and then say, well, it was your fault. I mean, look at you, you're black, you're scary, you're in my space, you're angry. I remember one time after Trayvon Martin was murdered, we were in the grocery store, and my son, I said, okay, you guys can pick some candy. So ridiculous. So he picked some Skittles. I said, put those back. Isn't that ridiculous? It's ridiculous. I stopped him from buying them damn Skittles. I said, no, put those back. As if that's going to lengthen his life or something. I said, put them back. And he got some Starburst or something. I said, yeah, that's better. Oh. Skittles is on the cover. I saw that. Halloween wasn't too long ago, and they came back with some Skittles, and it just has a little pinch. Just looking at some Skittles. Goodness gracious. After Atiana Jefferson was shot in her house. Do you remember that? What was that, Texas maybe? Shot in her house. Shot and killed in her house. Because the neighbor did a well-check call to the non-emergency number. Makes you never want to call the police. I mean, really rethink. I'm very slow to call the police. I have a black husband. I do not want the police coming near my house, especially if he's not there. Because my fear is he'll be walking towards the house when the police pull up and he's dead. And so the thought of calling a non-emergency number, when should we talk about racism? Should we talk about it on, let's see, October? No, is that? Oh, that's your birthday. No, we won't. Let's party instead. Let's get a cake and all that. I just want you to hear, to be able to schedule in when we talk about race is a huge privilege. And see, I've gotten very comfortable, maybe too comfortable at Holy Trinity talking about race because maybe I say some things out of turn and people aren't used to hearing me talk about race in front of their children. And it's like, oh, I'm sorry. I'm treating you like I would my own children. Because you cannot pass through too many days where it's going to come up. Oh, wow. Let's see. I talk too much. Somebody talk to me. What do you want to do? You want to look at some discussion questions? Anybody? Something on your heart? Yeah, talk to me. And say your name. I can't see that far. Can you say your name?
I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm Kate.
I knew that.
I don't want to take the mic all night, but one thing that really, really grabbed me, I read this book, I don't know, in 2015 or 2016. So I read that chapter again, and what I did not pick up the first time really, I don't think I was ready to understand it the first time, but it's like on page 144 that Black faith recognized that their enslavers' God was as bound to the whips and chains of slavery as were their own black bodies. I got a chance to go down to Montgomery this past spring, and I saw that someone had written, a white person obviously, had written an advertisement for selling African-American people. And I just stared at that and thinking, what does that do to a person's soul to write that? And so the words that I just read there, that's like, that is, we're enslaving God in some ways by our silence. We're trying to, it's, I don't know, I've just read it last night, so I haven't been able to articulate it all, but that's a really key point. When we tell ourselves, and I know that culture lets us walk away, but when we tell ourselves that we can walk away, we're not paying attention to those costs that are on our soul.
Yeah.
She's something.
Yeah. Yeah, that's one thing that Mark Charles was talking about at the symposium, the spiritual costs of the doctrine of discovery. Also, following that quote, like the next couple of sentences after, the black enslaved knew that this was not the God who encountered them in their free African lives. They were certain, furthermore, that this was not the God they encountered in the Bible. The God of their enslavers simply was not free. The God of the enslaved, which they soon understood to be the God of the Bible, was free. Doubtless, it was the African religious heritage of the enslaved that facilitated their profound understanding of God's freedom and transcendence. Yeah, thank you for bringing up that part. I wanted to, there was so much in here that at one point I just had to download it on Audible because I just couldn't even, it was just so much. It was just so much. Some of it is there's this, what's the word? There's a comfort there knowing that I'm not crazy. And I got to see Dr. Stanley's video, you know, to watch her class session. I wasn't able to pop in for that. And, you know, it was helpful to hear her talk and know it's like, yep, not crazy. And just the flagrant disregard for Black bodies, for our humanity, for our pain. Like the woman, I know this is going to hurt you. However, you know, well, what's your pain? I mean, what is it really going to hurt? It reminds me of, there was this, gosh, there's so many stories. There's I don't know. Do you know who the comedian Wanda Sykes is? I don't know if you've seen her stand-up. Highly inappropriate. Highly inappropriate. See, it's like there's like this, you know, Lutherans talk about both and. Lutherans always talk about both and that we hold things in tension, you know. So to bring my Lutheran theology to Wanda Sykes' most recent stand-up, it's called That's Not Normal. She said, oh gosh, I gotta stop talking. Let's see, who can I look at to be like a gauge, like a barometer? I'll look at Megan. Megan, should I? Okay, Megan's giving me nothing. So, again, Barbara Lund invited me, and she's not here, so there you go. At one point, she says something like, people, I'm smarter than the President of the United States. That's not normal. Anyway, so she is highly inappropriate. So that you hold that in this hand. And she's highly inappropriate and funny as hell. So, you know, you just gotta just hold those things in tension. So there you go. She talks about how white people can get, she talks about the opioid crisis and how white people have access to pain medicine at an alarming rate that Black people just don't. You know, she says something like, you'd have to come in the hospital with your, no, she said, you have to just be a severed head or something like that if you're Black and come into the hospital and say, wait a second, my body's in a car, in order for them to give you some pain medicine. And she talks about how she had a double mastectomy and they sent her home with ibuprofen. When in 2005, my husband and I were expecting our first child, and I was blissfully pregnant, naive, dumb as a box of rocks. And it was our 7th month, and we were going for a routine office visit where they weigh you, check your blood pressure, and listen for the baby's heartbeat. When it was time to listen for the baby's heartbeat, there wasn't one. And so they sent us home, told us to come back. And I mean, totally clueless. I didn't know what she was talking. I said, come back where? To your office? She said, no, come back to the hospital and check into labor and delivery. I said, labor and delivery? I have to labor for a child I know is already dead? She said, oh, yes. I asked for an epidural, and the anesthesiologist flatly refused to give me an epidural. I've been to, I don't know, 40 different support groups over the years, and I've never met another woman who was denied an epidural. There's no medical reason to deny a woman an epidural, and when I say that Black pain does not matter to people, it's framed into our Constitution that way. And so I'm starting to be able, with the help of Mark Charles and Jim Bear Jacobs and this Johnson Symposium from this past weekend, and reading Kelly Brown Douglas, is to try to understand that this is not an accident. This is the way our Constitution was built. This is the way our country was built. When we look at the words of our Constitution, the Declaration of Independence has nothing to do with me. Has nothing to do with women. Initially, women came in later, but Black people were kept out by Jim Crow laws, redlining, and the resurgence of the war on drugs, mass incarceration, segregation, and then these tropes that just get carried on. I remember one time I tried to I hate returning things. I tried to return a pair of shoes at JCPenney's, just return a pair of shoes. And the woman was she acted crazy with me, and I said, is it possible that I could, speak to a manager? Is that possible? Just like I'm talking right now. Is it possible I could speak to a manager? And she goes away, and she comes back with 2 more white women. And I thought, oh, geez. And it's like a standoff. I'm not an angry Black woman. I am Angie from Nebraska. I just want to return these shoes. I don't want to fight. And that is one of the reasons why my life expectancy is shorter than other people. Just moving through the world is tragically complicated. And then I go to church and somebody wants to pet me like I'm a dog. And then on top of that, say, you're my dog. I can do this. Because it doesn't really bother you. I mean, look at you. Am I telling too many stories? No. What do you want? Do you want to do some questions? I got a couple more stories. More stories? In church. So I was on internship in Omaha, Nebraska. They made an internship site for me because I had I wanted to have a baby. Let's see, how was Konami? Yeah, no, yep. I had a baby, and my parents live in Omaha, Nebraska. And child care is exorbitant, especially for an infant. And so they created an internship for me, thank God, so I could be near my folks. Because my parents are quintessential grandparents. They just love, eat them up, great. So then I was having another baby, and I had a C-section, and that's its own tragic story there. But baby's just fine. We have three children now. And there was the pastor's daughter was having a baby, and they thought she might have a C-section. I was at home recuperating on, I don't know, every Tuesday, every Wednesday, someday. The people get together and they have donuts and they talk and they pray a little bit. They just get together. They fellowship. And so one woman was very concerned, and through tears, she wanted us to pray for the pastor's daughter because she might need to have a C-section. And they did. And my husband said, well, my wife is at home right now. She just had a C-section. To which she responded, yeah, but she's strong. Well, see, here's the thing. When someone has major surgery, it hurts. These things aren't complicated. And they don't have anything to do with someone's genes or their racial makeup. It hurts when they cut you. See, there you go. This isn't rocket science. These are years of embedded biases that we carry, and we're not even aware of the pain that it causes other people.